Kale rhymed with fail, so I'm going to fuck up somehow.
All aboard the fail boat. Choo choo. Here we go.
Wait, did you say choo choo?
Chug chug. Choo choo.
Whatever. It is the SuperClash podcast, a podcast about shorter games. It is episode 55.
That seems like a number.
Yeah, I am your host, Kale.
Hello again, it's Connor.
And how was your week, Connor?
It was pretty good, I guess, overall.
It was a little bit rough for me. It's just, there's a lot of shit going on this week, and it made it extremely difficult to play the games that we're talking about tonight. One of them, and I know you were involved in this, I'm pretty sure it was Tuesday night or Wednesday night. We were in the middle of a tornado warning.
Yeah, that was great.
And it woke me up.
It was like 1:30 in the morning, probably.
Yeah. And it was really funny because I was dreaming. I was like, Lily and I watched Spy Family before we went to bed that night. And Spy Family was kind of bleeding into my dream a little bit. And I was envisioning the characters. And in my dream, I could hear the sirens.
That's weird.
It was very weird. And so I kind of woke up and I thought I was still dreaming. And then you know how the tornado siren, it spins?
Yeah.
And so I was laying in bed thinking I was dreaming, and then I heard it get louder, then quieter, louder and quieter again. I sat up. I was like, okay, that is not my dream. Why are the sirens going off? I checked my phone. We were in the middle of a tornado warning. So I wake Lily up. We get into the walk-in closet in our bedroom because that's like the most internal room that we had. Grab Kiva, fight the cats and everything. We didn't have time to get the buns, unfortunately. And I was just sitting there watching the broadcast of the weather as I'm trying to grab the cats. And then that infamous warning sign, where that ear-piercing beeping, and then the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for the following counties.
Mm-hmm. And
the very last word was, again, there was a tornado on the ground, and you and I know where it was. It was probably 20 miles away, but tornadoes can stay on the ground for a long time.
Yeah.
And once we were in the closet, we were sitting on the ground, and I was watching the broadcast. All of the anxiety that I had as a kid kind of started creeping back in, because I've lived here long enough to like not be as uneasy about storms, but I do have a memory. I have two memories of when the sirens went off, and one of them is when I think it was like the second year we moved here. The sirens went off, and it was at our old house where the siren was like maybe 300 feet away, so it was exceptionally loud. And I basically, as a 12-year-old kid, almost shit myself. Like, I was the first one in the basement as everyone was getting up. Like, I was gone. And then the second time is when I think I was maybe an older teenager. I was home alone, and when the sirens went off, and I had two cats and a 90-pound dog to deal with. So, and all that emotion that I had those two times kind of started creeping back in.
Yeah, I mean, I've been born and raised in Missouri my whole life, and so I've experienced countless tornado potential encounters, some of which have been closer than others, and I think the one that sticks out to me most is definitely one from my childhood where, like, I remember there was a stormy night, and my parents and I went to Kmart, of all places, and
to kind of give you an idea of just how old we are.
Yeah. And, well, this will date me even more. I was looking for a new set of pajamas, and I had picked out some the Lost World Jurassic Park pajamas.
Hell yeah, dude.
I very distinctly remember that. And we were checking out. My mom was like, oh, we got to get home. There's weather coming in. And I remember hanging out in the basement playing Super Nintendo while my parents were upstairs, I believe, making enchiladas, and I think we had a family friend over who was like in town or something, and then the siren started going off, so everybody like went downstairs, and we like got into our walls in the basement had like panels that you could open up and get inside them. And so I remember getting inside there, and like I think it was like, so our house was like backed up to where a highway was, and I think across the highway was where it was. So like you probably could have seen it if you went outside.
Jeez.
And so that's the one that I remember the most. But like this time, like I was laying in bed. I was almost asleep. Like, you know that like you're like dozing, and I was under the influence as well. So that was great. Yeah. So I was sitting there, and I'm like, I hear just like a consistent rumbling, not like a rumble then stop that you get from like thunder normally, and it's just consistent. I'm like, that's really weird. And I'm like, it's probably just thunder. And then I suddenly just hear like a very faint siren as it's like revving up, and I'm like, that's weird. Am I hearing things? And then it starts fully going off, and I'm like, is there like a test? And so I'm bringing up my phone. I'm like, tornado siren, Google, and like nothing. And I'm like, okay, well that's not great. And so I like, Laney's up too, and I'm like, all right, let's get everything and go to the basement. So I yank poor little Keo from his kennel.
Oh no.
He was horrified. He was like laying on his back, like in the kennel with his ears down, and I was like, I'm grabbing you, let's go. And I like yank him out. And then we tell Titan to run downstairs. So we got them in the bathroom. And then I ran up to the top of the stairs, and one of our cats was there. And I grabbed her, chucked her downstairs, and then went all the way to the very top. And on top of her cat tower was our other cat. And so I like yank her off there. She's like clinging on to it. I'm like, yup, you're coming with. And so yeah, we went on down to the basement and went into we put all the animals in the bathroom down there. And then we sat on the couches and kind of were watching the weather thing while we were waiting to see if we needed to actually like head to the bathroom. But yeah, dude, that my heart was just dun 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 dun, because imagine being under the influence, being incredibly tired, and like having to suddenly spring into action. Like my body was not ready for that.
I later found out that even though it was a pretty small tornado, that the tornado touched down like 2 streets away from where my manager at my work lives. That is fucking terrifying. But luckily, we were all okay. Everyone was okay. I don't think there was any casualties.
I don't know. I know a lot. The really sad part is a lot of people were saying that they slept through it. And like, yeah, it's good that you slept through it and you lived, but like, oh my gosh, the fact that like people just didn't wake up for it is just
and see, that's the thing. You cannot rely on the tornado siren. The tornado siren is, I believe, it's designed for people who are already outside.
I mean, it depends on your proximity to it too, because there's
True.
one like literally down the end of the street. It's because I'm near an elementary school, so it's by the elementary school, and so it was pretty loud for me.
Yeah,
but
thank God for smartphones, man, because and I'm glad I have cable, because I mostly just have cable to watch sports, and I just pulled up it on my phone. I was just watching the live broadcast.
The weird thing is, like, normally when we get tornadoes here in the Midwest, there's kind of some lead up to it. Like, we know that there's storms coming in.
This came out of nowhere.
It caught most of those Weather Channel people with their pants down. Like, literally, this guy was like, I can't remember what news station. Maybe it was like KMBC or something like that. He came in and he was like, yeah, I normally don't wake up for a couple hours. And he said, oh, my alarm just went off for me to wake up. And like, so like they were totally like caught off guard, and we were too. And so like when I was searching on my phone, like tornadoes, Kansas City, nothing. That was the really weird part. I was getting nothing. Zip zilch.
Yeah. And it was really funny too, because I have the Weather Channel app on my phone, and I was looking at the forecast the day or the night before it happened, and it said, chances of thunderstorm, some may be severe. I'm like, okay, well, severe thunderstorm, it never really turns out to be that bad. Boom! Tornado warning.
Yeah.
So, just fucking terrifying, dude.
Yeah, but I'm glad that it didn't seem too major. Just kind of jarring to be woken up in the middle of the night to...
Yeah. And one more, and yeah. And another thing to add to this week, which is why it was a crazy week, we had to take our rabbit to an
emergency vet.
Yeah, to an emergency vet. Which, by the way, the emergency vet that every single vet clinic pointed me to does not take care of rabbits, just dogs or cats.
Lovely.
We finally find somebody who can take care of her. Our rabbit Misty, she was showing signs of GI stasis. Rabbit owners who are listening, you know what that is. For those who don't know what that is, rabbits' digestive systems are constantly moving. They need to be constantly eating. And as a result of them constantly eating, they constantly shit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's generally a good idea to put their food and their hay in their litter box, because they literally shit while they eat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if they were to consume like a foreign object like carpet fibers, their hair, or some kind of cotton, it can get stuck in their GI tract and cause a blockage, which then causes gas buildup. It's very painful, and because there's nothing coming out of their butthole, that gas builds up and it could kill them within 24 hours.
Jeez.
And I was tipped off when I gave Misty her food, and she was on her little bed, and she was just kind of calm and just kind of hunched over, you know. I gave her a couple pets, and I said, "Good night, Misty." And I woke up the next morning to go give her food. She has not touched her food from last night, and she was still on the bed in the exact same position. I'm like, this is not good. So I called 24 vets.
Jeez.
24. And I finally found one, and through the recommendation of our primary vet, thank God bless them. And this woman checked her out, and she says, you know what, there is a little bit of movement in her GI tract, but not as much as I wanted, or not as much as I want. So she said that we caught it extremely early. She gave us medicine and told us to basically kind of take a syringe and just kind of put water in her mouth to kind of encourage the GI tract to move. And also a big problem with GI stasis is dehydration. So, and a couple days later, she's fine. She's still being her bratty self. So, but this week was just really rough, man. And I'm just ready for this weekend, just ready to relax.
Yeah, I kind of want to chill myself because I had kind of a sort of rough-ish week as well with, last week our basement room flooded, as I mentioned, and then over the weekend I was going to, so I'm in the process of like trying to kind of organize and decorate most of the rooms in our house. And so to do that, I was going to go through some of the boxes and totes that we had in our storage area downstairs and kind of take things from room to room and move them to the proper rooms they needed to be in. And I got about halfway through that, and while I was going in and out of our laundry room, which is in our basement, the sump pump was running still, and it was just running and running and running and running, and I was like, that's not normal.
That shouldn't happen.
And so I went and I looked down into it with a flashlight, and it's spraying water like off to the side.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, and so I unplug it, and it just stops, and I'm like, okay, well, and so long story short, we end up having to like call our home warranty people, and they sent out a plumber who arrived today, and thankfully, the only thing I have to pay is $75, but they have to replace the entire thing, and so it would be like $1,100 to replace all that.
Oh, man.
So if I have any recommendations to any listeners out there who are homeowners, get a home warranty. Like, for the love of God, I'm not even joking. We paid $500 for ours, and we have had basically they replaced every part in our dishwasher when it went out, replaced the parts in our freezer/fridge when that went out, and I'm having my sump pump replaced. And other than the $75 deductible on top of it, like, they're covering all of it.
And you lived in this house for close to just a year.
It'll be a year this September.
Yeah.
And so, like, I recommend it to anyone because you never know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And things can go out all out at once. And can you imagine having to replace a fridge, an oven, anything all at once? Like,
Yeah.
be devastating.
Awful. Just awful.
So
on lighter notes, though, as I said earlier, I've had picked up watching some animes.
what have you been watching?
I've been watching Spy Family
Okay.
and Konosuba.
Konosuba's so good.
It is really good. It's funny. It's so funny.
You on season 1?
Yeah, we. I can't remember what the character's name was, but Megamine.
Megamine, yeah.
Yeah.
The little wizard girl?
She kept blowing up the castle.
Yes.
And the general comes up and says, "Who's been blowing up my castle?" And I love, for one, the dubbed voice acting is great. For it being a dub, because he gets so confused. He's like, "Wait, what?" just the sheer incompetence of this party, but somehow they pull through.
That's just their whole thing, and they're like the worst at everything.
But it's so funny because it reminds me of people who've never played D&D before. Especially with Megamine, where she just ignored all stats and just went straight into explosion. She knows one spell that she only used a day,
and it knocks her out.
And that's exactly kind of what a probably an inexperienced D&D member would do. Is they put all their stats into this one great magic ability, but then they're useless for the rest of the campaign.
I also like how it's an isekai. So Kazuma was, I'm not gonna say because do you know how he died yet?
Oh, he died of shock.
Yeah, he thought he was going to get hit by a car, and he died of shock. But so he's like a loser in real life, and he is also a loser in this world. So it's like it's more realistic. It's not like he got reborn in this world and suddenly he's like a badass. It's like no, he's still just a loser.
Yeah, it's really raunchy, but it's really really funny. Like there are girls with short skirts. They bend over. You see their butt crack. And
Aqua doesn't wear underwear.
What?
Aqua doesn't wear underwear.
Yeah. And what's the main character's name?
Kazuma.
His steal ability, he can only steal panties.
Yes.
For girls mostly.
He's like a degenerate.
Yeah, basically. And when Megamine gets her new staff, she's grinding on it.
Yes.
So it's
and then the night darkness, she gets off on getting injured.
She's a total masochist.
Yeah.
Not massacre.
Well, she is a massacre too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great show, and I think they've confirmed they're going to do another season. And also,
good.
If you get a chance, I think there's also movies to watch that go along with it.
Oh, cool.
So,
but those Spy Family, of course, is basically a spy codenamed Twilight needs to get close with a high profile target, and he basically needs to get close to him by basically adopting a daughter and then getting this daughter into this school so that he can get close to this target.
Okay.
And however, one of the requirements to getting to the school is that the parents need to be interviewed. Well, it's only him and this adopted daughter who's telepathic, by the way. So she immediately knows that he's a spy because she can read his mind.
So she knows he's part of a ploy.
Yeah, kind of. She only knows that he's a spy because he talks to himself and he talks about the mission. But because of it, he runs into a woman who is an assassin, and Twilight doesn't know that she's an assassin, but the little girl does. And so this is this really weird family dynamic that's really funny but super wholesome at the same time.
Interesting. I could watch that.
It has some action in it, but it leans more towards slice of life.
Okay.
It's like Lily and I love it. We're caught up, and I think the new episode comes out at the time of this recording tomorrow.
Dang, nice.
So, and we're ready.
I finished like I think it was the night we recorded our last podcast. Is actually the night I finished My Dress Up Darling.
Oh yeah,
it's a great show. It is like so. It is a little bit ecchi, you know.
Edgy,
Ecchi,
etchy.
ecchi.
What do you mean by that?
It's a Japanese term where there is like a little bit of like sexualization in it, you know.
Okay.
So like you don't get to see like any exposed things, but you know, you get to see a girl in her like underwear and stuff like that. But it's also equal parts like super wholesome. So it's like it's good. It's good. Basically, there's a doll maker. He's in high school. So his okay, back it up. The grandfather owns this doll making shop where he makes these Hina dolls, which are like traditional Japanese dolls. And the grandson becomes enamored with the process of making these dolls, and he finds them like really beautiful, and like so he kind of like devotes his life to like learning that trade of making these traditional dolls. And in the meantime, he ends up like scaring off any potential friends he could have had. So he's kind of a loner. He goes to school, goes right back home, goes back to making these dolls. And there's a popular girl in class who stumbles upon him after school one day in the sewing room. I don't remember. It was like maybe like a home ec room, but he's like sewing a dress for one of the dolls or something. And she's like, "You know how to sew?" And he's like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Well, see what I've done." And she shows him this cosplay that she made, and it's like bad and like really bad. And he's like, "Oh, you need to do this and this and this." And she's like, You can help me make cosplay outfits." And he's like, I don't know about that. I've never made like people clothes, you know? And so long story short, they end up like bonding over him making these outfits for her. And he has a like strong sense of like obligation and loyalty and friendship. So like he wants to like bust his butt to make this as best as he can for her because, you know, he doesn't want to let her down. And she's more like laid back, like, "Oh, don't worry about it. And when she sees like the level of effort and devotion he puts in for her, she like instantly falls in love with him. Like she's just like, he is like the nicest guy I've ever met. He, you know, he genuinely cares. He's, you know, perfect. And so you see this like kind of relationship start blooming as he makes more cosplay outfits. They go to more like conventions and all this stuff. And it's just so like cute in every way of how like she has like these internal like discussions of like, she says like, "I love him so much," like, you know, things like that. And like, it's like, oh, that's adorable. I love this. So definitely watch this one.
Nice, man.
But the only other thing I've watched was Prehistoric Planet. Have you seen that one?
I haven't, but I'm aware of it.
It's like the Walking with Dinosaurs kind of spiritual successor.
David Attenborough.
Yes.
Yep.
It's really good. If you get a chance, give it a watch. I feel like it's kind of updated on a lot of kind of outdated theories on dinosaurs. So it's like more modern theory. So a lot more of the dinosaurs are feathered. They kind of show like some of like what they might have used as like mating displays, how they would have hunted, how they would have handled like the winter, and kind of like sort of disproves like the common misconception that like dinosaurs only existed in a hot climate, that there was never like snow or ice or anything. And like
interesting.
And so it shows them in these environments of like, no, they would have lived because they weren't cold-blooded. They were warm-blooded, but you know. So pretty good.
Yeah, awesome. So man, we're almost 30 minutes into this, and haven't quite gotten to our games, but this week, as I said, was rough. So we actually didn't get to finish. I didn't finish either game, but I have enough to talk about here. So tonight's games is Shovel Knight and My Big Sister. But before we get into that, Connor, let's get physical.
All right. So for Let's Get Physical today, we have a handful of interesting games. The first of which is Azure Striker Gunvolt 3. Have you ever played anything in the Azure Striker series?
I haven't.
All right. Well, this one is $40. It's a distributed title from Limited Run Games. It's only on Switch. And so in this game, a new protagonist named Kieran fights alongside Gunvolt, allowing players to switch characters on the fly and adding new elements to the series' high-speed 2D action gameplay. Players will also welcome the return of the Story Mode Plus system, where the rich story and characters interact in dialogue during the game's missions. More familiar faces will also return as image pulses, a new system that allows players to use characters from Gunvolt's past in combat. Over 150 varieties will be available. There's also a collector's edition available for $80 that includes a 2-disc soundtrack, art book, and keychain. Pre-orders for these will end June 19th.
All right.
The next game is AI, the Somnium Files nirvanA Initiative. It's $60. It's available on Switch, PS4, and Xbox One, and is a wide release. And in this game, you unveil the workings of a mysterious serial killer. You join Agent Izuki and Aiba as they work to solve an unnerving murder case. 6 years ago, the right half of a corpse was discovered. The left half was never found, until 6 years later, completely fresh with no signs of decay.
Ooh.
Now, special agents, along with their AI partners, are tasked... My brain froze for a moment. Are tasked to solve the bizarre half-body serial killings while unveiling the mysterious plot known only as the nirvanA Initiative. There's also a collector's edition, which is sold out currently, that was available for $120 that included a PVC figure, art book, and soundtrack. This game releases June 24th.
Awesome.
The next two you probably have heard of. The first of which is Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes. It's $60. It's only on Switch, and it's a wide release. It's a Musou-style game as well, so one of the Warriors games.
Oh, nice.
You join Fire Emblem Three Houses characters as you engage in massive battles across Fodlan. Edelgard, Dimitri, Cloud, and other Fire Emblem Three Houses characters return to put their combat expertise on display as you revisit a war-torn Fodlan. Unleash devastating combos and stunning special moves in action-packed real-time combat. Cut through hordes of enemies as characters from Fire Emblem Three Houses, and take down dozens of foes with Edelgard's axe, Dimitri's lance, or Claude's bow. Slash, swing, and spear your way to a brighter future for Fodlan. And it comes out June 24th.
Awesome.
All right, down to the last two. We have Capcom Fighting Collection for $40. It's available on Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. It's a wide release. Fighting fans can celebrate 35 years of Capcom fighting games with Capcom's Fighting Collection. It's an anthology of 10 classic titles, including the full Darkstalkers series for the first time ever outside of Japan. Each of the 10 titles in the collection has been revitalized with online multiplayer, enhanced features, and quality of life updates. It releases June 24th. And then the last one is Mayhem Brawler, which is approximately $38. It's on Switch, or $33 on PS4. It's a Red Art Games exclusive. While answering a routine call on patrol, Dolphin, Star, and Trouble, the frontrunner metahuman officers of the superpowered law enforcement agency Stronghold, find themselves in a sequence of events that will alter the fate of the entire city. The game includes a double-sided poster. Releases June 24th.
Very nice. Not as long as last week.
No, is anything that interested you in this one?
Probably Fire Emblem, because I love those style games, and also AI.
Yeah, there's a first game to that as well.
Really?
Yeah. This is I want to say it's the second game in this series, but if you get a chance, maybe check out the first one if it seems right up your alley.
Yeah, I'm down for a cool mystery game like that.
Oh yeah.
So, all right, and so that's let's get physical. Let's just dive right into this. This is going to be a longer episode. So, the first game we're going to be talking about is Shovel Knight. This is developed by Yacht Club Games and released in 2014. If you're good at this game, you can beat this in about 6.5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's on a lot of platforms. It's on all the 7th gen consoles, so Xbox 360, Wii U, PS3.
It's on the Wii. It's on the Wii U.
Oh, is it? Oh, is it just on the Wii U?
Wii U and 3DS, yeah.
Okay. 3DS, current gen consoles, Mac, PC, Vita, Switch, and Amazon Fire TV.
Oh, yeah, it was ported to basically everything.
Yeah. And so basically the story of this is that the Shovel Knight comes out of exile after losing his love, Shield Knight, to take on an evil empress.
Mm-hmm.
So, if by some chance you have never heard of this game or seen this game, this is basically looks and plays like a Super Nintendo game. It has 8-bit graphics, sound and music, dialogue through text, and it's a platformer. It's challenging, but not necessarily unforgiving, which I'll dive deeper into that a little bit. How it plays is, as I said, it is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, and you use your shovel, hence the name Shovel Knight, to attack enemies and to pogo enemies. You collect treasure, which is used to buy abilities, and you explore areas to find chests, and then at the end of every level, you fight a boss. I believe almost at every level.
All of the main levels.
Mm-hmm. So, I want to say that this game has absolute critical acclaim. Yep. There 9s, 10s across the board. I'm going to come out of the gate and say that I think the game is fine. It's not the greatest of all time, or I don't find it worthy to be put as a 9 on my list, but it's fine.
Okay.
So, and it's mostly just because I had a Nintendo growing up. I played Mario 3, Duck Hunt, and that, you remember that track and field game where you had the pad and you had to run in place?
Mm-hmm.
We had that, but if I recall correctly, my brother got bad grades and my parents got rid of the Nintendo.
Mm.
So I didn't have any consoles until the PS1. So I'm a little bit out of my element when I'm playing these games, and as a result, I'm not used to how the controller worked. I felt like the modern controller doesn't translate well, despite the game being rather modern. Because this works under a Super Nintendo, I have NES, but Super Nintendo control scheme. Attack and magic are tied to the same button, but the D-pad direction changes the attack from a physical attack to a magical attack.
Mm-hmm.
And this screwed me over so many times because I'm so used to pressing up to attack in the air, and I end up using magic instead of attacking, and I end up taking damage as a result.
Okay, and you played it on the Switch, right?
I did play it on the Switch. To elaborate further, when I'm playing Elden Ring and when I want to do a jump attack, because it's a 3D game, I need to go forward in order to attack forward, and that's what I mean by I'm so used to doing that, and it took me, I still haven't gotten used to it. It's a pretty hard habit to break, and so. Also, I generally like to take my time with more difficult games because I like to experiment. So that's one of the reasons why I ran out of time playing this game. And also, I spent so much time defeating the Spectre boss too. Like, I still have not beaten him.
Wow.
So, I like hard games, but I'm bad at them. What do you think, Connor?
Well, I'll make one comment before I give my opinion. I think that at least with the way that we've been playing games lately, one positive thing is you and I both, I think, have been exposed to a lot more different genres of games than maybe we would normally just play on our own. So that's always a good thing. And for me, I grew up playing a lot of SNES era games. So this kind of feels right at home with something I would have played back then. So that's probably why I'm a little biased towards liking it. That said, I really, really love Shovel Knight. I own it on pretty much every platform, either digitally or physically. I played this particular one on 3DS because I thought it would kind of lend itself well to that, with the kind of button layout, I guess. And I will say I love the music of this game. The soundtrack is awesome, and the story is kind of fun and cute. And I love all the art design in this game. Like, the characters are super well designed, pixel sprites. Like, they're so good. So I feel like overall the combat is pretty fluid itself as well. And the checkpoint system within a level is fairly generous. Like, you get about 5 or 6 checkpoints in a level.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. That's what I mean about how this game is not as challenging but not unforgiving. You can essentially, air quote, choose your difficulty with the checkpoints, because you can destroy the checkpoint if you want and get a lot of treasure at the cost of being sent back to the previous checkpoint and need to fight or take longer before you hit the next checkpoint.
Yeah. I'd say the only thing that I do not like about this game is the fact that if you die, you lose your gold that you collected, a chunk of it, and you have to go back to that same spot and recover it. So let's say you went to, because there are branching paths in the game that you can go down to in certain levels, and you went down a path that you didn't really want to go down. You're like, there's just a treasure chest at the end of it. I'm not going to futz with it. I just want to go towards the boss. But you died. Well, now you have to go back or you lose your gold. And so that kind of, I never really liked that part. And I think a lot of the challenge of the game isn't necessarily the platforming itself, though there can be some challenge in that. I think it really comes from the bosses at the end of each level, such as Spectre Knight, Plague Knight. And so with those bosses, I think you have to die many times, in my opinion, because you have to learn their attack patterns. Once you learn their attack patterns, they're not too bad. It's just learning those patterns and knowing how you need to react to them. Like, for instance, I want to say it was Spectre Knight, the one that you were stuck on. My strategy with him was hop up on the platform, wait for him to come at me, and then I will either hit him with my shovel or shoot a little fireball at him. And then when he would throw his blade, it goes in kind of like a J shape through the map. And so if he threw it at me, I would either jump over it and then wait for him to collect it on the bottom, and then I would down thrust on his head. And you can get 2 or 3 hits in sometimes.
I do remember that.
And so you just got to keep doing that. You got to watch for him to throw his thing and wait for him to charge at you. And then when he spawns the little skeletons, if you kill them, you can occasionally get a mana drop, which lets you shoot more fireballs or whatever other magic ability you want to use. So that's kind of how I beat him. I'll be completely honest, I didn't finish the game either. I think the combination of just dealing with the house issues, dealing with lack of sleep after that tornado, and the fact that I didn't mention it, but I did see Jurassic World Dominion, so that took an evening away. I didn't get to finish it, but I want to say I was on the level of the 6th boss of the game out of 8.
Okay.
So a good chunk of the way through, and I do really want to finish it up. I think maybe before I start our next game that we're going to play, I might just try to beat it over the next couple days, just so I can finally say I finished it, because I've started and have not finished this game multiple times, and that's my own fault. I usually will play and then give up, and then play and then give up and play. But I think the best way I have found to play this game for maximum enjoyment is play 1, maybe 2 if you're feeling up to it, levels a night, and then put it down, so you don't get burnt out and frustrated. So, and the only issue I really ran into is I had been just closing my 3DS when I was done playing it. I didn't turn it off. I know it's a bad habit, but I just close it and put it into rest mode, and I would throw it in my drawer, and then I'd take it out and play a level. I decided to actually just save my game and then shut it down, and then when I went back to play it, all of my items were gone. All of them. I don't have any magic abilities. I don't have anything now. And I don't know if that's part of the game, but I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. That seems really punishing.
Yeah, and I will say I don't think it's the way it is because I started using a previous save file. And don't think, oh, Connor cheated on this and took a head start. I'd only played like 20 minutes of it, according to my little time clock. But I had, in that time, unlocked a few things. And those were still in my inventory when I started up the game. So this leads me to believe that it shouldn't have wiped out all of my stuff. But it did, and that's kind of disheartening, and that's honestly probably contributed to why I didn't finish it, because I was like, I thought about playing it over lunch today, and then I was just like, I gotta unlock all my stuff again, I gotta do all this, and so that kind of bummed me out. But all that aside, if I'm looking at just the overall game, I think I'd give it a 9 out of 10. I really like a lot of things about it. I love the characters, they're so charming, and like, I just want plushies of all the characters because they're adorable.
Yeah, the sprites are good, but I would, from what I've played, I'd probably give it like a 7. I know it's hot in here.
Oh yeah.
So take off all your clothes.
I am getting so hot. I'm gonna take my clothes off.
Oh please. But that's Shovel Knight, guys. So let's move on. I know, man. I'm sorry.
I got sweaty belly.
Got sweaty belly. Me too. I'm about to strip down.
We'll go sliding on the ground together.
Oh,
our sweaty bellies like penguins.
That'd be adorable. Hey, that'll be a shirt.
Us sliding on our bellies.
Yeah.
Do you like?
I love that art piece, man.
This doesn't really play for the audience listening, but we commissioned some art for the channel, and we have a glowing representation of that on the wall by us.
Yeah, check out our YouTube if you want to see the art.
Yeah. It's the art that plays when we play our podcast, but it's glows and it's on the wall and it's RGB. It's cool.
It's awesome. But let's move on to the last game we're talking about tonight, Connor. My Big Sister. This is made by the same guys that made Just Ignore Them, Strange Games, released in 2018. You can generally beat this in about 3.5 hours, although I've seen some YouTube videos that they beat it in an hour and a half.
Yeah, I could see that. It's pretty simple.
You can get it for PS4, Switch, PC, Xbox, and everything.
And I played it on Vita.
Oh, a Vita, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do is you play as Louisa,
Words
are hard. In this game, you play as Louisa, a sarcastic 12-year-old with a playful sense of humor. It is a game about her and her sister. Is it Sombria?
Yeah.
Who are trying to get back home after being kidnapped by strangers, and Louisa takes it upon herself to ensure that they both make it home. So, like Just Ignore Them, this is a top-down RPG. It plays like a point-and-click, but it's way better designed for console.
Yeah.
For those who listened to the previous episode, Connor and I kind of had an issue with Just Ignore Them, with the cursor being tied to the analog stick, and so I thought it would play much better on a PC because of the point-and-click nature.
Yeah.
You don't really have to worry about it with this game because you literally just have to go up to the object, you get the little exclamation mark, and then you can continue the story. It played way better than Just Ignore Them. And I thought it had a better protagonist too. I thought Louisa was a far more interesting character than the character from. I think her name was. I think Mark was his name.
Yeah. I think the story in this one's much more interesting.
Oh, absolutely. It's really funny too because I'm reading my notes here and I'm kind of laughing now because I said that I didn't find this story as unsettling, and I don't think it knows what it wants to be at sometimes. And this was very early in my playthrough. Until you start like getting like really into it, then that's when the creepy shit starts happening.
Yeah.
Because I would say in maybe the first third of the game, not a lot happens.
Yeah.
Like you get kidnapped. Like you get kidnapped. You go to. Oh, I'm sorry. I said that thing out of order. You start the game at your house. I mean, Louisa is chastising her older sister for smoking.
Mm-hmm.
She goes upstairs, goes to bed, wakes up in the middle of the night, and sees her sister completely dismembered. fast forward to her being in a psychiatrist office, and supposedly it looks like she's in complete denial of her sister dying. And so I was thinking, okay, this is weird. So what's going on here? It wasn't until you got to the bathhouse, is when you find the witch with long arms who gives you a riddle, is kind of when I was like, okay, I think I know where the story is going. A couple cool things about this game was, choice seemed to be a lot more focused in this game than just ignore them. And an example is when you meet the long-armed witch, she will ask you for one of 3 items. The lily, chopsticks, or a dead fish. If you give her the wrong item, she kills you.
Did you get killed?
The first time, yes.
I actually didn't. I knew what she wanted by going, and you can talk to the chef. He'll tell you what...
The butcher.
The butcher, yeah.
Also creepy guy. So, what'd you think of this game, Connor?
I really liked it. I beat it pretty quick, I want to say. It was a pretty short game, but I liked the story. I liked how at the very end you can make a decision. And I know that you said you didn't finish the game.
Spoiler alert. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to spoil it for you.
Oh, I don't care, dude.
Okay. Well, at the very end, the old woman who works at the noodle shop is in your house. And upstairs, Sombria is in her room. And you can pick up a knife, and you can choose to go kill Sombria, or you can kill the noodle woman. And so I chose to kill the noodle woman, which allows you to live your life with your sister, basically.
Interesting.
So there's a lot of layers to it, too. Like, it's not all black and white. And I thought another really cool thing about it is there's a lot of little nods to other things. Like, there's a Neighbor Totoro thing. Did you encounter that?
I didn't. Not the Totoro. Actually, maybe.
Have you been to
leaf?
Yes, where you put a leaf on her head. That's a Totoro reference.
I didn't think about that. The only one that really stuck out to me was the just ignore them mention, where Sombria dreamed of being on a plane, and she went to the bathroom to smoke, and she came out, everyone was gone.
Yeah, and I wasn't certain, but remember when they're in that cafe? I wonder if it's the cafe from Just Ignore Them.
Maybe.
It's possible.
Interesting.
But yeah, I think there's some little in-universe nods. And actually, they just released, I guess, the prequel to this.
I remember you mentioning to me about that.
So now I'm kind of wondering if we should throw that on our future list to play. And
Maybe. So, yeah. From what I played so far, this game is really, really good. I'm so glad I stuck with it. I was ready to kind of tear this game a new one because it started so strong, and then it felt like it was kind of all over the place. But I'm so glad I stuck with it because everything is kind of falling into place, especially after what you told me. There are 2 things in this game that really stick out to me, and I mean this in the best way possible. There one moment that got me really good. You eventually go back to the bathhouse, and that's where you meet the witch, and that's where you give her one of the 3 items. If you go back into that room, she will quickly sneak up behind you, grab you, and kill you.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
You didn't know that?
I think, okay, so what I was going to do when we went back to the bathhouse is I was going from the right to the left room-wise. And so I didn't get to that room yet, but it progressed the story before I could get there.
Well, I'll show you the YouTube of it. It's scary, dude. Like I felt my heart go into my throat when it happened because it was so fast. And and the other part too was where is it? Oh, the 4th wall break in the forest.
Yes, that part was interesting.
It's like you find your sister eating a deer. And she's saying, Louisa, I am so hungry. Please find me something to eat. And then the color of the text changes, and there's no box around it. And And she says, "I wasn't." And by the way, I wasn't talking to Louisa. I was like, "Okay, well, she must be talking to someone in her head." I continue playing, and the text pops up again, and says, "What are you doing? I'm getting impatient. I'm looking at you, person behind the screen." I'm like, "Ugh."
Yeah. She gets more and more impatient as you take longer to get what she wants.
Mm-hmm.
Which, did you get all of her stuff in time?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the first time I didn't.
Oh, what happens if you don't?
You just get a game over screen.
Oh.
But a very high quality sprite of her shows on the screen.
Yes, it does.
It's pretty creepy.
I thought I was so close to dying, because I didn't know what she wanted at first, and I was like, "Oh shit, she wants the mushrooms. Where are the mushrooms at? Oh shit!" And it got to the point where she popped up on my screen. I was like, "Oh god, I'm gonna die. I'm gonna die."
Did her eyes start bleeding?
Yes.
That you were very close to dying.
I think I got her the last one right after that, and I was like, "Whew."
You were like maybe one screen away from dying.
Oh, great.
So, but man, I am excited to play any game by this developer because they always seem to have very interesting concepts.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people sleep on these games because A, they're shorter, B, they're kind of like pixel-based games, and C, they're kind of cheaper.
But they're both Just Ignore Them and My Big Sister. Both of them are really engaging.
Yeah, I had fun with both of these, and I'm glad I own a physical copy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a shame that Vita cartridges aren't a thing anymore. Because
I know, man.
I would love to have owned the prequel also on a
Mm-hmm.
cartridge to have.
Yeah, but
What would you give the game?
I would give this game an 8.5. So,
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking about the same. I'm probably more close to an 8, but
Mhm.
I did really like the ending. So
yeah. So, but those are the two games tonight, guys. I'm really sorry that it's not as in depth as it usually is. Shit happens, and I hope those who listen understand. So next week we're doing only one game. We'll be doing Max Payne 3.
Yeah.
A game I played when it came out and have not touched since. So we'll see how it holds up 9 years later.
I've owned that game since shortly after release, and I have never played it.
You've never played it?
Never played it.
Oh, this is going to be interesting. So it'll be me revisiting and you visiting it for the first time.
Yeah, man. What are you going to play it on?
I'm going to try to play it on PC unless I can find it at vendor stock for cheaper. And then I have to hook up my Xbox, which I might just hook up to my computer monitor.
Yeah, I'm playing the 360 copy, but backwards compatible on the Series X.
Yeah, just an FYI, it does come on 2 discs.
Yeah.
So I was really mad. When this game first came out, I couldn't afford to buy the game, so I just Redboxed it.
And they only give you one disc.
They only gave you one disc, and so when the point came where you had to change discs, I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh gosh.
I was mad.
Ugh.
Because up until then, the only other game that I played that came on 2 discs was Dead Space 2.
Yeah, that didn't it?
I guess Mass Effect 2? No, Mass Effect 3 came on 2 discs too.
I think maybe both of them did.
Yeah. I can't remember, but
Oh, that's the fatal flaw of the 360 was that they were DVD disc basically,
Mhm.
I think, and so they didn't have as much file storage on them. So what would fit on one disc on the PS3 was 2 on the 360.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to revisit this game. So, and that'll just about do it, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.